employee benefits, pensions, workers' comp, and I guess health insurance. So those three. And then the other big one is debt service. So none of the rules as far as what rate we are allowed to levy at for any of those changed. General funds limited, trust and agency doesn't have a limit on it, and the debt service also does not have a limit on it. What the law does, though, is require that if the city proposes a levy that is more than 2% greater than the year before, the city has to have a public hearing, which we have a public hearing anyways in our budgets.
Right.
Have a public hearing and state the reasons for exceeding the 2%. And then it has to pass by supermajority, which is 5 out of 7.
Okay.
So that really is the difference. Just
hold that
process
thought.
for approval.
Hold that thought. Let's go to the phones. AM 1400 KBFT. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hey, buddy, how's North 15th Street going to get done these days? I see a lot of cones.
North 15th Street. When's it going to be done?
Decoration, or they're going to do something?
It's a decoration.
Yeah. No, the work started. If you notice, they're doing some. They've been removing some soils over the last couple days, and they'll get that out of the way, and then they'll start pouring the bike path in there. I don't know when. I don't have a deadline. I can't tell you what the project deadline is.
Oh my! I thought you were in charge of everything.
I am in charge of everything, but that doesn't mean I know the details of everything. I know the details of very little.
Okay, gotta go, guys. Take care.
All right, thank you for the call. That's your favorite listener there. I think he's calls almost every time when you're on. Anyway, so we have to have a supermajority now to do what?
To approve a levy that is over 2% greater than the levy from the prior year.
Okay. All right.
So,
and we have to have what, 5 of 6 councilmen?
5 of 7, yeah.
5 of 7.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon. Can the mayor veto?
Well, the mayor can't veto something that fails.
All right.
The mayor can veto something that passes. So if the levy fails, he can't veto that.
Well, I got that part. Yeah. But if it passes,
yeah, he could, and then it had to be passed again. But then you'd have 5 votes anyways.
But he could be overruled by a 5-7.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a supermajority.
Yep.
Is that where he's at with all bills? I mean, could the council override a mayor's veto if 5 councilmen voted to override the veto?
Yeah, I think so.
It's never really come up before. After all, who would override a veto by Matt Bemrick?
I don't know.
He would look at them very, very harshly.
Yeah. I think he's only vetoed a couple of things over his whole
he
tenure.
vetoed something a few years ago when those crazy people were trying to stop any kind of forward progress that we were going to have, but I don't remember what it was now.
I don't remember. I don't remember.
It was several years ago. David Furyk, city manager, is our guest. AM 1400 KBFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Let's talk about the trash days. Have they started already? They have, haven't they?
Yeah, we're on. Tomorrow would be day number 3. So if you are a Thursday garbage route, or basically north of 4th Avenue North and west of 15th Street, your garbage is tomorrow.
All righty.
Your trash day is tomorrow.
My trash day is tomorrow. Well, my trash day is Thursday, as you just said.
Yeah, I said that wrong. I mean, the spring cleanup day is tomorrow.
Spring cleanup day is tomorrow, right? I don't think my recycling day is tomorrow, but
it might be. Is it West Side?
I don't think it is. I think my recycling day is next week.
Check out the handy dandy app.
The handy dandy app. What do you got? A City of Fort Dodge app?
Yeah, Connect Fort Dodge. You can go to this app, you download it, and then
Connect Fort Dodge. That's right.
And then you go and you can click on trash pickup, and I'll go right to the calendar as I'm doing. But
by the way, see Click Fix if you haven't got that.
That's
app.
the same thing. That's
it is
Connect Fort Dodge. We are it's tomorrow is the West Side. Tomorrow, May 1st, is West Side. So it is your recycling pickup tomorrow.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I'll get it all out there then.
Yeah.
I'll get it all out there. Now, what the heck did I do with my C-Click Fix? I have so many apps that now I can't find. Anyway.
Connect Fort Dodge has that Fort Dodge logo on it with Connect and then Fort Dodge.
So these guys are out there rain or shine. We don't have to.
Out there rain or shine. We had snow one morning years ago.
Really?
The first cleanup day, it snowed. It snowed a couple inches, and we still did it.
Okay.
Fortunately, it didn't snow enough that we actually had to put plows on trucks and do all that because it'd been a little warmer for a while, but we still did the pickup.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I forgot to get the notices and every doggone thing. I'm just behind on my C-Click Fix app all the way. 515-955-1400 if you have a question or comment for the city manager, David Ferrick. By all means, give a call, 515-955-1400. I'm getting this C-Click Fix app right
Good.
now. So the tomorrow is the west side, the north and west side of town from
Yeah.
from 4th Avenue. It would be west, then of 15th Street, and north of 4th Avenue.
4th Avenue.
Okay, all right. So that's Bemrick's pickup day too.
Yep. And mine too.
Yeah.
And then
Some of the things that are not allowed, by the way, you can go to the city website and see that. Appliances and paint. That's what I wanted to ask you. I was trying to think of what I wanted to ask you. I have some paint in my basement. It's 5 years old. How can I get rid of it? I mean, what do I have to do? Do I have to take it out to recycling or what?
well, it depends on what kind of paint it is. If it's latex paint,
Mm-hmm.
no, I wouldn't take it out to recycling. What I would do is open the lid and let it dry.
Okay.
And if you have a cat and have some kitty litter, you can speed that up by throwing that clay kitty litter in there. Because once it's dry, once latex paint's dry, you can just throw that in the garbage.
Really?
Just throw it in your garbage can, yeah. If it's dry.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
open the lid. I mean, if you throw it in there wet, what you're gonna do is make a mess of the inside of the truck. But,
We don't want to do that.
and hopefully it doesn't spill out. But yeah, let it dry, and then it just becomes this block of latex.
Really?
And then you can just throw it in the garbage.
So I was thinking everything's environment. Don't screw up the environment.
Latex paint is very inert once it's dry. Now, oil based, they won't dry, and then obviously that's a petroleum product, so that should go down to the household hazardous waste site down in the
Household hazardous waste.
We have a household hazardous waste drop off site by the recycling center on South 22nd Street. You go by the gypsum mines, and I think it's actually called Gypsum Hollow Road. What's that road is called? Anyways, the extension of South 22nd Street towards the landfill. Off to the right before you get to the landfill is the recycling center, and now our household hazardous waste drop off site.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So yeah, in addition to not being able to put appliances out, you can't put TVs out either.
Oh, those
Because
TVs
we will
you can't do
not
it?
collect TVs. If you want to get rid of TVs, again, you got to go to the recycling center, and they cost you $15, and then they'll take your TV because there's a company that collects all the TVs, and they charge the recycling center $15 because they have to then dismantle it and get rid of some of it in a hazardous method and some of it other ways. So that's what they charge. So the recycling center just passes that along. That is a $15 charge. Can't throw tires out either on spring cleanup. We're not going to pick up tires.
What do you do with them?
Well, they can go to the landfill, but I think landfill wants to charge, $5 per tire for a standard tire, because used to be they could chop them up and put them in the landfill. You couldn't put full tires because they tend to float to the surface, and that's bad. Yeah, I mean, that's why they can't put tires in landfills. That's what they do. They for some reason they don't stay below the cover. They keep rising, and then they'll break the surface, and they've kind of wrecked all the sanitary benefit of a sanitary landfill.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
that would be a
'cause-
problem.
Because they're really supposed to be capped. So I honestly don't know for sure what they do. I think they send them to a company that grinds them up and recycles them.
Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah.
for other things. And there's a lot of good uses for recycled tires.
Before your time here, we had quite an incident with, there was over 1 million tires out by
Yeah.
Iowa Beef, and there
Yeah.
was a court thing, went back and forth. And actually they were afraid a fire would start out there somewhere, and that would be a major environmental hazard. And then a fire did start out there. They got to it right away, or it went out on its own. I can't remember, but yeah, that went on for quite a long time.
Yeah,
So
I've heard the story of the tire fire.
Oh
fire
yeah,
out
it was
there.
it was an impressive one out there. It was an impressive one, and Mark Cady was a district court judge then, and I remember the landowner and tire owner was chewing out then Judge Cady pretty good, but Cady ruled against him anyway. So
Well, I mean, if you got to dispose of tires appropriately, and just storing them on your land's not appropriate.
yeah, well,
Especially if you collect the fee that's supposed to go into the proper disposal of tires, and
I
just throw them on your land. That doesn't work.
sometimes you should really well, if you're going to talk about something or comment about something, you should really know what you're talking about. So I had it in my head around that time that, well, it can't be that many tires out there.
Yeah.
So I took a ride out there.
Yeah.
Wow. There was a lot of tires out there. There was a lot of tires out there. So, yeah. And then right after that, some guys started a business that ground up tires,
Mhm.
I think it was a short-lived business. I don't know. It's been quite a long time ago since all that happened. Probably the late 1980s. I don't know. What year did you get here?
Oh gosh, I didn't get here till what 2006.
Oh, 2006. Oh, I thought you got here a little bit before that.
No, 2006.
Okay. So you think you're going to stay?
Yeah.
Good man.
As long as they'll have me.
Oh,
What
yeah.
did I say? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where they get anybody better than you. That's for sure. Maybe we could choose one of the councilmen to be city manager. Okay, I was kidding. If that scared some people out there, don't just calm down. I was kidding. Really. What else is going on in the city as we head into the warmer months? As an arc moves past my window here.
Yeah, I know. One of the things we're going to do, and I know we've gotten a lot of calls at City Hall about that, is when we are going to lift the yard waste burn ban.
Yeah, there we go.
It's probably going to be soon, but it is not now. So you cannot burn yard waste currently. I've been watching we usually do it in the fall, either the last week or spring. Sorry, we usually do it in the spring, required by the council, either the last week in April, first week in May. So we're kind of in that time frame. I'm watching the weather to make sure the weather is going to be good, so that there's plenty of opportunity to burn, and then we'll make an announcement relatively shortly before we're going to do it. So you can't do it now, but we're going to have a burn week. Basically, it becomes a 9-day period between Saturday, the whole next week, through Sunday. So you got 2 weekends and the 5 weekdays, and that's required by.
Who'd want to burn now, for God's sake?
Well, I remember when the council, when we first prohibited burning of yard waste, the council at the time said, well, we'll consider it allowing a short period every fall. And we did that. And then at one point they said, hey, how about a spring burn? And a couple times, or 3 or 4 times, the council said, okay, we'll allow a spring burn. And then, and maybe it's 5 years ago now, instead of the council taking a request and taking action every year, they passed a resolution and say, city manager, you figure it out. And you have to do a 9-day period in the fall and a 9-day period in the spring. You figure out when that's the appropriate time to do it is. And so that's just what I do. I just, kind of look and see when, it's kind of weather dependent, and it's also in the fall, it's also kind of foliage dependent too, that depending on how long the leaves are on the trees or when, when the frosts start coming, is then when we pick the burn days. So,
okay.
So there will be one coming up shortly, but it's not now. There'll be press releases coming out.
Press releases, huh?
Yeah.
And it'll be on the app.
Yeah, I think you can get the releases on the app, but yeah, we'll do it.
There's notices. I signed up for the notices and the whole thing.
We'll get the notices out. Obviously, the radio will get it and be able to report it in the news.
You'll be here.
Well, I'm here now.
Memory quote.
Yeah. I guess I'll be.
What
here.
You're planning on not being here in a couple of weeks?
I think
or
I'll
what?
be here next week too. Yeah.
Why? Are you planning on going somewhere else?
No.
Are you sure? All right.
Positive.
Mm.
I shouldn't say positive again.
You shouldn't say positive.
I'm not 100% control of this relationship. I could.
Oh, for God's sake. Now you're just being paranoid. No, you're just being paranoid. Nothing to it, David. I don't know. I think we've got you now, and we're not going to let you out of town. So that's it. Yeah, I don't know. Again, when I would ask any of the councilmen who think that maybe you're not doing a good job, and I don't know if anyone of the councilmen are thinking that. I think they'd be foolish if they did, but I'd like to see them do that job. Let's see you guys do it.
Well, I mean, they do a good job at their role as being a council member, but it's different. And when you're a city manager, I really have like 8 bosses, right? Because I have a mayor and 7 council members. So
yeah.
Keeping 8 people happy at one time is a bit difficult. And if you're dealing with some dicey public policy issue that maybe is kind of split between some people like it, some people don't, it's hard to keep everybody on board.
That's right. And the council over the last few years, off and on, really has looked like the bar scene from Star Wars.
I don't know about that.
I realize you cannot join me in my sense of humor today,
It's a cool scene though. That could be my music, my theme music when I go on.
I think that's a great idea. Star Wars. Now we're talking. Absolutely. Excellent. So, David Furrick's our guest. He's a city manager, and this is AM 1400 KBFD. If you have a question or comment for David Furrick, 515-955-1400. I don't want to get away from the legislative session. How else have any changes down in Des Moines affected our city?
That's a good question. I don't really know if there's anything that's significant that's
Didn't we get some
us.
housing tax credits? I
don't think this legislative session messed with that. I mean, we did have, I guess the one we dodged another bullet. Remember, the Senate voted, as you reported here on the air when I was on, the Senate voted to eliminate automated speed enforcement.
Right.
But the House didn't even take up the bill. So
that House, what a bunch of liberals.
so,
What a bunch of liberals.
So another year of fighting that fight. So, well, I know there were some proposals down there on the speed cameras that were going to put into place rules that were very similar to how we operate now. So we weren't very nervous. And I guess there was a proposal. I can't speak to whose it was because I never saw it in writing, that the state thought it'd be a good idea if they just confiscated 60% of all the revenue from the local speed cameras.
Of course. I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, it's all ironic. You have the legislators that are opposed to it say it's only a money grab, but then say, hey, okay, we'll just grab your money.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's taxation without representation, and we should get Paul Revere right to the countryside and say, Furrick is coming. I'm sorry.
It's not taxation without representation.
Oh, it isn't. Oh, yeah, of course not. That's right. Of course not. You guys just cooked up the idea. Actually, Carmody did, I think, didn't he? Wasn't he the one that came up with that idea?
Yeah. Well, I think we started it while he was the
chief of police.
But there were some other cities already doing it. Cedar Rapids was already doing it.
Yeah, and the sheriff of Lynn County. I've had a couple of people on the air from Cedar Rapids, including Rod Corbett, who was then mayor of Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
And the Lynn County Sheriff got $3 million a year from that fund. And that was such a obvious speed trap. It was painful. I mean, you'd come into Cedar Rapids from the north or south, and if you were really, really paying attention, you could see this small sign that said 55 miles an hour, and it had a little red cloth flag sticking off the side of it. That was it.
Yeah.
There was no big sign or no larger street sign that said, now we're starting at 55 mile an hour speed limit. It had been 65 on the highway or even 70. So you come into Cedar Rapids and all of a sudden it goes to 55.
Well, I thought, now doesn't the DOT set the speeds for on the highway? Because
the DOT was supposed to, certainly.
And they have standards. And I know and I've driven it quite a bit. You got a section that's 70 and
right.
And then I think, what do they drop it? Like from the north, and they drop it for 60 for a little bit, and then as you get closer downtown, it goes to 55. Which, if you go I think if you drop it less than 15 miles per hour, you don't have to put like speed zone ahead, but they drop it. And then I think when they hit the 55, and that's when they got the sign that says photo enforced, and then the cameras are behind the overhead signs about 3 or 4 places.
All right,
but yeah, so.
I think that's how the whole fight with the DOT and the city of Cedar Rapids started, is that the DOT said, look, this is our stretch of road. Get your cameras off of here. And, of course, Lynn County, first of all, went crazy. And as a matter of fact, Corbett and most of the city people said, well, we're going to abide by the DOT regulation. But the sheriff and some law enforcement people insisted on a closed session. They all came out. They'd all mysteriously changed their mind.
Oh, interesting.
And
I didn't pay attention to that.
And it came out later that Lynn County Sheriff's Department got $3 million just from those cameras. So yeah, they wanted to.
Well, it's a highly traveled
but it was
area.
public safety. I have public safety concern. It was just
Well, you ought to look at how many accidents there were in that stretch before the cameras and how many accidents are in that stretch now. I mean, I just remember the folks that were promoting the cameras were talking about how the accidents had gone down significantly. Again, I know our accidents citywide went down significantly when we brought in the cameras. Maybe that's an anomaly. Maybe it's the fact that people
I've seen
slow
the
down.
statistics on where you keep those cameras. There was no problem before, and there was no problem after, especially right there by the Veterans Bridge.
Well,
There have been no real incidences.
no real incidents.
None. Zip, not a zero.
Well,
No pedestrians. Hardly any vehicle-to-vehicle accidents. Before,
I mean, that's one place, and you like pointing to that place, probably because you got a ticket there. But there's
two of them, and it's that's an obvious speed trap too.
You know, the speed limit's 25, right?
Then it goes to 20, right?
No, not on Veterans.
Are
you talking about over the railroad?
on the railroad on the way out?
It's
to the mall.
25. You know, it's 25. It's been 25 for a long time. You got a speedometer in your car.
So this means
25, right?
So this means that because there's no statistical evidence at all that there was ever a problem in that 4-block stretch from 15th Street to the bridge, that having a camera there regularly was for public safety.
Where there's definitely a speeding problem.
And
And speeding problem is the major cause of accidents.
I've accepted that you're wrong on the issue. David Frigg's been our guest. Thank you, David. This is AM 1400 KVFD.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, 434.
What's in store for your business this week at Staples?
The future of printing is here, and so are the savings.
The reinvented HP OfficeJet Pro printers are now at Staples.
They're smart, mobile, and secure.
So you can easily print, scan, and copy remotely from your mobile device.
And now at Staples, save up to 20% on the all-new HP OfficeJet Pro printers.
Plus, save up to $50 more in store when you trade in your old printer.
Staples, there's a whole lot in store.
Ends 5/4/19. See store or staples.com/HP OfficeJet Pro to learn more.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Oh, why not just cremate me when I'm gone?
Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, there are many options to consider when cremation is chosen. From simple to detailed, we at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services can help you create a unique commemoration.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alice Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. The Board of Regents will hold a meeting Wednesday to set the preliminary tuition rates for the 3 state schools. Radio Iowa's Dar Danielson reports.
The Regents held off setting tuition at their meeting earlier this month so they would know how much money the Iowa legislature was going to approve for University of Iowa, Iowa State University, and University of Northern Iowa. The board requested $18 million, but the budget lawmakers approved is only $12 million. The board office proposes a base undergraduate tuition for in-state students of 3.9% at the University of Iowa and ISU, and no increase at UNI. There's some individual programs where schools are proposing slightly higher increases. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley is calling on fellow Republican President Donald Trump to promptly lift tariffs on aluminum and steel from Mexico and Canada. Grassley says the move would immediately clear a significant hurdle for Congress to pass legislation to implement the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, the replacement for NAFTA.
He put those tariffs on because Mexico and Canada wasn't negotiating. They have a negotiated agreement that the president likes. I like it. So the president's just about ready to declare victory when he takes those tariffs off. I want to help him get them off. I think he needs encouragement.
Grassley says it's important the president acts soon.
We need to get this done this year because next year's a presidential election year. We won't get it done then. As far as Canada is concerned, they need to get it done the next 6 weeks because they adjourn in June for election in October, and it may not be done in Canada if it isn't done before the election. Who knows about a new government up there?
If the president takes the lead to eliminate tariffs on steel and aluminum from Canada and Mexico, Grassley says it would enable the administration to work with those allies to address the true source of trade troubles, which Grassley says is China.
The president, in order to have credibility with Japan, Europe, and China that we're negotiating separate agreements, we won't have any credibility if we don't get this done. The China negotiations are much more important than even what we accomplished with Mexico and Canada.
Grassley says such trade deals are vital to our country and especially to farm states like Iowa. Governor Kim Reynolds is still not making any definitive statements on whether she'll sign or veto some of the high-profile bills that passed in the just-completed legislative session. Reynolds talked with reporters today and says some of the bills have not gone to her desk following the close of the session Saturday.
We're going to sit down with the team and we're going to take a look at the bills that passed both chambers and have been sent to me to sign. And people have an opportunity to weigh in because of the timing that they pass. We have 30 days. Now, we won't wait till the end. Some will be able to get done sooner rather than later, but we'll go through the process and start working through some of that stuff.
Reynolds spoke with reporters after giving the opening remarks at the STEM Education Conference being held in Des Moines. Police say there's no indication a woman who was fatally shot while driving over a highway bridge in northeast Iowa was targeted, and they're seeking the public's help in determining if the gunfire came from nearby woods. Michaela Alexis Reniger was shot about 2:30 a.m. on Sunday as she drove over a wooded area along the Cedar River in Waterloo. The shot shattered the driver's side window of her Jeep and hit her in the neck, then hit one of her two passengers. The 25-year-old former University of Northern Iowa softball player pulled over and died. The injured passenger was taken to a hospital. Police are offering a $6,000 reward for information and seeking surveillance or trail camera video from the area. Investigators want to know if someone was hunting near the river. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies expected this afternoon with scattered rain showers likely. Highs around 51. Winds out of the east, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Overcast skies. Tonight, scattered rain showers likely. Lows dip down to about 41. Scattered rain showers again. Tomorrow, highs level off around 56. Cloudy skies. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 49.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. May corn up 1 1/4 to 353 1/4. July up 3/4 to 362 1/2. September up 1/2 penny to 370 1/2. December down 1/4 penny to 381. May soybeans down 6 1/4 at 841 1/4. July down 6 3/4 at 854. August down 6 3/4 at 860. November down 6 at 874 3/4. May wheat closed down 8 1/4 to 418 1/2. Soybean meal down 120 a ton to 296. April live cattle down 102 at 123.75. June down 55 at 114 1/4. May feeder cattle down 180 to 141.60. August down 192 to 149.15. May lean hogs down 47 cents at 84.30, and June up 17 to 88.22. From the Alpha Media Farm Desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge 440. On the phone is Laura Bellin of the website Bleeding Heartland. How are you, Laura?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Oh, not a problem. Please, I hate to do this to you, but your warm-up act here is going to be the obituaries. So I'm going to have to give the obituaries real quick, and then we're going to talk with Laura Bellin. The obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South here in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce's Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Betty Runyon has died of Fort Dodge. Betty Runyon passed away at the age of 72. She died on Tuesday, the 23rd at Mercy Medical Center in Des Moines. There will be a celebration of the life of Betty Runyon at a later date. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce's Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. It's 441.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
Okay, if you haven't checked out Bleeding Heartland website, you should, whether you're a liberal or not. It's got some great reporting and great writing, something that I hold in high esteem. Laura does both those things. We have some amazingly poor writers and thinkers on both sides of the ideological spectrum in Iowa. No, that's not arrogance. It's just we don't have, even in some of our states, larger newspapers. We have a couple of shining stars over there at the Cedar Rapids Gazette. Did you used to work for the Cedar Rapids Gazette, Laura?
No, I I have not ever worked for a newspaper.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of them in the state that could use you. That's for sure.
I'm a fan. Linda Waddington and Todd Dorman of the Cedar Rapids Gazette. I read their columns regularly. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I've had Dorman on the air. I haven't had Linda Waddington, but yeah, I'm a fan of the Cedar Rapids Gazette. They do a really good job over there. I wanted to talk to Laura to get her perspective of the legislative session that just ended, at least from her perspective. So let's start with property tax reform. Did you have any insight into property tax reform in the state of Iowa?
Well, mainly I was following that bill through the work of Peter Fisher of the Iowa Policy Project. I know you've had people from the Iowa Policy Project on, and that bill is going to be a real disaster for a lot of towns. I know it went through some changes from the initial draft to the final version, but unfortunately, they've really taken a lot of flexibility away from the towns, and they've also, and the city governments, and also they've made it, because they required pensions to be part of a a complicated formula, it's going to sort of pit public pensions against some other public service priorities like road repairs or parks, and so I think it's I think it's going to be a real problem, and I don't think it's going to lower people's property taxes, that's for sure. So I was discouraged to see that happen. I think it wasn't thought through. In fact, they took the final vote in the House of Representatives at about 3 a.m., and they had revised the bill, and the way the process is supposed to work, the Nonpartisan Legislative Services Agency is supposed to come up with a new fiscal analysis anytime they substantially change a bill, and they didn't wait for the new fiscal note on that bill. They just had a debate and voted on it in the middle of the night. So, you know, the old saying that nothing good happens after midnight in the legislature. So that was a good example of that.
Well, that's a that's something that used to come out of my dad's mouth, and he should have known, by the way. He had every reason to know that, by the way. I have to tell you something, Laura. The legislature decided that transgender people could pay for their own transitioning surgery. And some of your fellow liberals have gone completely bananas about this. I don't get it. If someone wants to transition, nobody's saying that they can't. But to portray it, as you have and others have, as absolutely essential to their health is beyond my comprehension. I'm going to ask you two things. Why all the hysteria? And secondarily, where do you find the information that it's truly a danger to the health of a transgender person if they don't have the state pay for it?
Well, I'm not a medical professional, and neither are you.
No.
The consensus opinion of every medical organization now is that gender-related services related to people's gender transition is considered medically necessary. It is no longer considered elective. And in fact, a lot of private insurance companies have adopted that same position. So it's not my opinion, it's a consensus opinion in the medical community that they've looked at the evidence, they've looked at the very high rate of suicide among transgender people, 40% higher than the general population. They've looked at the very high rates of anxiety and depression, and they've done long-term studies that show that people do better when they are able to have surgeries to allow their bodies to conform to their identity. So it's not, Medicaid pays for a lot of things for a lot of people. And just because many people don't understand the transgender population, or maybe don't like the idea of somebody of having a sex change operation, just because you might not like that idea doesn't really mean that it's not medically necessary. So I'm going to rely on the medical organizations to tell me what care is elective and what care is medically necessary. And I think that was we'll see what happens. I personally think that the governor should item veto that section of the bill, because I think if she doesn't, they're going to lose in court over this.
They might. Of course, it's a new day as far as the courts are concerned. Let's talk about that a little bit. We're talking with Laura Bellin of Bleeding Heartland. Not so much yet at the state court, but certainly, and I've talked about an unrestrained, an unaccountable judiciary for a long, long time here. I am not in favor of any branch of the government that's unaccountable to the people they're supposedly serving. So there was an enormous fight, and I was really surprised by some of my lawyer friends who went bonkers on this. Even Republicans went crazy on this. The idea that we should have some sort of accountability when there's a judicial pick for our highest courts.
Well, wait a second. Hang on. First of all, when you were reading the obituary, I was thinking, why don't you read the obituary for our nonpartisan judicial selection system, which the Republicans just threw out the window. When you say there's no accountability, all Iowa judges are on the ballot every 6 years if it's a district court, or every 8 years for a Supreme Court justice. And the people can vote, and there is accountability if they think that the judge isn't doing a good job. So I kind of reject your premise on that. But it's different. Our state system is not supposed to give the governor a free hand in who she appoints, because we don't have Senate confirmation of judges the way they do at the federal level. So once the governor makes the appointment, it's final. And that's why the system that was set up 57 years ago, that's worked well since 1962, was more evenly divided, where they had a commission that's made up of half elected attorneys, because they're the ones who work with judges and understand how the courts are supposed to function, and half people appointed by the governor. And they've now tipped the scales so that the governor is going to have a majority of the members of that commission, and she's going to have total control over what candidates they send her, and the people she appoints won't be subject to Iowa Senate confirmation. So you want to talk about no accountability, there it is. And also, that bill was really, I thought they treated the Fort Dodge, your fellow Fort Dodge resident, Chief Justice Cady, was treated very poorly in that bill. And I think that was a really unfortunate thing. He's an honorable person, and I think it was inappropriate for the legislature to intervene to try to shorten his term as Chief Justice.
Well, I will argue as far as accountability, too. What you're talking about is a retention election, and I think it's actually every 10 years. Now, that's not exactly...
No, it's 8 for the Supreme Court.
It's 8?
8 for the Supreme Court and 6 for district court.
Okay. Those are retentions elections. They're not elections where people really are drawn to the issues involved, or really want to examine a judge's record to see, frankly, if that judge is suitable and fit to represent the people of Iowa and to serve the people of Iowa. There's 38 states, after all, do allow some sort of elections of their judges, and those states seem to be prospering. I really wonder what's going on behind the push to keep judges away from being answerable to voters and to the people that they say they represent and they care about.
Well, I can tell you, I actually researched this issue earlier this year because I was interested in how this constitutional language came into being. And it was the Iowa Supreme Court itself in 1959, an elected Iowa Supreme Court, proposed a package of reforms to the state legislature, and they were the ones, they had a blue ribbon task force, and they initially proposed getting rid of judicial elections because they said we need a more professional and competent and stable judiciary. And the problem with judicial elections is that you can end up, if it's a good year for Democrats or Republicans, I mean, people can get tossed out for reasons that have nothing to do with how well they're serving on the bench. And I was watching the Iowa House debate on Saturday, and Representative Pritchard, who's an attorney in Floyd County, he was talking about speaking with a contemporary in a state where they have judicial elections. And it's just routine that if your case is assigned to somebody's courtroom, you make a campaign contribution to that judge. And that's just outrageously corrupt. I mean, you think that shouldn't even be legal, but that's commonplace in states where they have judicial elections. And I know someone who used to live in Wisconsin, and the Wisconsin judiciary has a terrible reputation for a very politically charged decisions that aren't grounded in the law. And I think it's one of the best things that the Iowa legislature's ever done was in the 50s and 60s pass this judicial reform. And it was suggested by the Supreme Court justices who were benefiting from the elections themselves.
I would have to say, Laura, on behalf of many people, that our Supreme Court right now has shown us they have no qualms about making some very politically charged decisions, and they seem not to care about.
They're grounded in the Constitution.
I've read the Constitution of the state of Iowa. I've read the Constitution of the United States. What they're telling us is they're really making things up. Here, let me give you an example. Two gay men in Iowa City wanted to get married in 1974. Now, I was on the earth in 1974. I suspect you were as well. It's not like we're talking about the 19th century or something. Two gay men wanted to get married, and they went to the Supreme Court of Iowa. The Supreme Court wouldn't even hear the case. They thought it was so ridiculous. Fast forward to 2009, and all of a sudden, here it is in the Constitution. Now that's Laura, I don't buy the argument, but we're running out of time, and I want to get your take on privatized Medicaid. A lot of my medical providers have a big problem with this. A lot of people are having trouble getting the medical care that they need.
It's the worst thing Terry Branstad ever did to this state, which is really saying something. But privatizing Medicaid has not worked out for anybody. It's been terrible for the hospitals. It's terrible for the nursing homes. It's not good for the patients. This population with severe disabilities is among the worst affected, and the providers aren't getting reimbursed. I mean, I don't know if you've had this happen in Fort Dodge, but in a lot of communities, healthcare service providers have closed their doors because they just aren't getting paid by the managed care organizations. It's really a terrible thing, and I'm disappointed that the Republicans in the legislature and Governor Reynolds can't just recognize that this experiment didn't work, and it's time to unwind it.
I don't think they care. I really don't. They keep saying, and of course, I go to Exit Issues, and not only here in Webster County, but in other counties around the area. And all the Republicans, when asked about this, will say, well, what we were doing is unsustainable. And I press them about that. And what they really mean is we don't want to raise taxes to pay for it. We're here to reduce the size of government and to cut taxes. That was Terry Branstad's reason to be. And I really think that's the Republican Party nationally. I think that's their reason to be. Robert Novak.
I hope they're happy about. They may lose some of their rural hospitals, and you know that in a smaller community, a hospital is a huge economic engine as well as important to the quality of life of people in that community. And this is going to be a big problem, and nursing homes also. But I think the biggest issue is the hospitals that could be closing, and rural hospitals were already under strain for other reasons before this thing. But managed care has been absolutely terrible for them.
Well, I couldn't agree with more, really. Anyway, Laura Bellin, thank you for taking some time with us today. Laura Bellin has a website and a Facebook page, Bleeding Heartland. And what is it? BleedingHeartland.org?
BleedingHeartland.com.
But .com, sorry. Okay, yeah, again.
Thanks so much.
Oh, no, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it, as always.
Always a pleasure.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
From the Fox Business Network, stocks closing mixed on the last trading day of the month, with the Dow closing up 39 points, the Nasdaq falling 54 as Google's parent company Alphabet tumbled on a revenue miss, which weighed on the tech-heavy index. The S&P 500 hitting a new record high, closing up 3 points. And Apple reporting another quarterly decline in profit and revenue as the tech giant continues to battle weak iPhone sales, particularly in China. However, the company's second quarter results exceeded analysts' expectations, and its stock is up over 5% in after-hours trading. And Warren Buffett is jumping into an oil industry bidding war. Occidental and Chevron are duking it out to acquire Anadarko Petroleum. And Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is offering $10 billion to help finance Occidental's bid as it tries to fend off competition from Chevron. Both companies are eyeing Anadarko's prized assets in the huge Permian Shale Basin in West Texas. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Hillary Barsky.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 4.5%, APR 4.78%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rates subject to change. Pay 2% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor. Brought to you by Creative Signs and Graphics, Fort Dodge. For signs, decals, vehicle graphics, magnets, logos, customized documents, and more. If your business needs it, Creative Signs and Graphics can make it. And a stitch above the rest embroidery, Fort Dodge. Step out in style with quality brands, timely turnaround, and professional service. A stitch above the rest. Embroidery professionals worth finding. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on KVFD. When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor. Brought to you by Creative Signs and Graphics Fort Dodge. For signs, decals, vehicle graphics, magnets, logos, customized documents, and more. If your business needs it, Creative Signs and Graphics can make it. And a stitch above the rest embroidery, Fort Dodge. Step out in style with quality brands, timely turnaround, and professional service. A stitch above the rest. Embroidery professionals worth finding. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on KVFD.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for the station so we can go wherever you want us to.
Mother's Day is next Sunday, and Pro Flowers makes it easy to order like a pro with this amazing deal. Send mom a dozen beautiful assorted roses for just $19.99. Order now and you can double your roses and get a premium vase for an extra $9.99. That's 2 dozen roses and a premium vase. The only way to get this amazing deal is to go to proflowers.com, click on the microphone in the upper right corner, and enter code 4343. That's proflowers.com, code 4343.
There are 7.7 billion people on this planet. How will we sustain a growing population? In America's cultivation corridor, we aren't waiting for someone else to figure it out. Here in Iowa, we're growing more in less space, investing billions in game-changing ag innovation, and ensuring everyone has the resources needed to make a global difference. The future depends on us, and we don't take that lightly. Iowa is America's cultivation corridor, where science feeds the world.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes, teachers, and students are calling Limitless a secret weapon for the brain. You have nothing to lose, so call now and find out how to get a free bottle today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-681-9041, 800-681-9041.
What's in store for your business this week at Staples?
The future of printing is here, and so are the savings.
The reinvented HP OfficeJet Pro printers are now at Staples.
They're smart, mobile, and secure.
So you can easily print, scan, and copy remotely from your mobile device.
And now at Staples, save up to 20% on the all-new HP OfficeJet Pro printers.
Plus, save up to $50 more in store when you trade in your old printer.
Staples, there's a whole lot in store.
Ends 5/4/19. See store or staples.com/HP OfficeJet Pro to learn more.
All right, thanks for listening today. We had some great guests, Laura Bellin, David Fierks, Chief Roger Porter. 5 o'clock, this is KVFD in Fort Dodge, Iowa.
They hope it will be enough. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. That's what the White House is saying about the uprising in Venezuela led by opposition leader Juan Guaido. National Security Advisor John Bolton says it's not a coup.
Just as it's not a coup when the President of the United States gives an order to the Department of Defense, it's not a coup for Juan Guaido to try and take command of the Venezuelan military.
Venezuelan ambassador to the UN, Samuel Moncada, mocking President Trump as he sees it interfering in politics in Venezuela.
This is President Trump, by the way, the self-proclaimed president of the whole world, and also the actual self-proclaimed president of Venezuela, Mr. Trump.
President Trump tweeted the U.S. stands with the people of Venezuela and their freedom. A court appearance for the 19-year-old suspect in last weekend's shooting at a synagogue in Southern California. Fox's Gernal Scott has more live.
Lisa John Ernest faces murder and 3 attempted murder counts, all with hate crime stipulations attached. He also faces an arson charge. Ernest pleaded not guilty to all those counts. Judge Joseph Brannigan denied bond, deciding that
Mr. Ernest is an obvious and extraordinary risk to public safety.
The hate crimes counts could bring the death penalty. San Diego County DA Summer Stephan did not commit to that, but said
this sort of hate and hateful crimes
will not be tolerated.
His next court date set for late May, Lisa.
Grinnell, Army veteran accused of plotting terror attacks in Southern California, was discharged from the military for a serious offense. That's what an official is telling the AP. Mark Domingo was reportedly demoted for violating the Uniform Court of Military Justice and didn't complete his enlistment contract. Domingo was arrested Friday as he planned to plant bombs before a planned white supremacist rally. This is Fox News.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Spring is prime home buying season, so if you're thinking about buying a home, right now is the time to lock a low rate, which can save you money every month on your new mortgage. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Trump and
your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. The Board of Regents will hold a meeting Wednesday to set the preliminary tuition rates for the 3 state schools. Radio Iowa's Dar Danielson reports.
The Regents held off setting tuition at their meeting earlier this month so they would know how much money the Iowa legislature was going to approve for University of Iowa, Iowa State University, and University of Northern Iowa. The board requested $18 million, but the budget lawmakers approved is only $12 million. The board office proposes a base undergraduate tuition for in-state students of 3.9% at the University of Iowa and ISU, and no increase at UNI. There's some individual programs where schools are proposing slightly higher increases. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley is calling on fellow Republican President Donald Trump to promptly lift tariffs on aluminum and steel from Mexico and Canada. Grassley says the move would immediately clear a significant hurdle for Congress to pass legislation to implement the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, the replacement for NAFTA.
He put those tariffs on because Mexico and Canada wasn't negotiating. They have a negotiated agreement that the president likes. I like it. So the president's just about ready to declare victory when he takes those tariffs off. I want to help him get them off. I think he needs encouragement.
Grassley says it's important the president acts soon.
We need to get this done this year because next year's a presidential election year. We won't get it done then. As far as Canada is concerned, they need to get it done the next 6 weeks because they adjourn in June for election in October, and it may not be done in Canada if it isn't done before the election. Who knows about a new government up there?
If the president takes the lead to eliminate tariffs on steel and aluminum from Canada and Mexico, Grassley says it would enable the administration to work with those allies to address the true source of trade troubles, which Grassley says is China.
The president, in order to have credibility with Japan, Europe, and China that we're negotiating separate agreements, we won't have any credibility if we don't get this done. The China negotiations are much more important than even what we accomplished with Mexico and Canada.
Grassley says such trade deals are vital to our country and especially to farm states like Iowa. Governor Kim Reynolds is still not making any definitive statements on whether she'll sign or veto some of the high-profile bills that passed in the just-completed legislative session. Reynolds talked with reporters today and says some of the bills have not gone to her desk following the close of the session Saturday.
We're going to sit down with the team and we're going to take a look at the bills that passed both chambers and have been sent to me to sign. And people have an opportunity to weigh in because of the timing that they pass. We have 30 days. Now, we won't wait till the end. Some will be able to get done sooner rather than later, but we'll go through the process and start working through some of that stuff.
Reynolds spoke with the reporters after giving the opening remarks at the STEM Education Conference being held in Des Moines. Police say there's no indication a woman who was fatally shot while driving over a highway bridge in northeast Iowa was targeted, and they're seeking the public's help in determining if the gunfire came.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios.
It's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I am Dave Ramsey, your host, and this is Common Sense for your dollars and cents. It is common sense, but it's fairly uncommon. As a matter of fact, common sense is so uncommon that now having it is somewhat like having a superpower. And that's why you're here. Thanks for joining us. Open phones at 888-825-5225. That's 888-825-5225. Kevin is with us in Houston, Texas. Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Dave?
Better than I deserve. What's up in your world?
Okay, so my wife and I have finally decided to bear down and start the debt snowball, which is a large list. And I have a fifth wheel that I'm upside down in, which happens to be the largest debt on the list. And I'm looking for some dynamite to open things up some. So I'm going to sell a truck that I have that I'm looking at getting probably $45,000 out of. And I want to know, do I use that money to get myself right side up in the fifth wheel, or do I work the debt snowball?
In order to sell the fifth wheel, right?
Well, that's the thing. Looks like I'm going to be needing the fifth wheel to live in to follow my job.
What are you going to pull it with if you sell your truck?
Well, I can pay somebody. There's companies that do that kind of stuff.
Okay. So what is your job and where are we following it to?
Oh, well, I work for a commercial diving company.
Or with your home, why can't you just?
Yeah, I could.
No. So what's the fifth? What do you owe on your fifth wheel?
$74,000.
Yeah, that's kind of my problem. That's what I was working on in my head, because you know what that $74,000 value is going to look like. Oh, it's not even worth that today. What's it worth?
About 40.
And you paid what for it?
I think I paid 90 brand new.
And when?
4.5 years ago.
Okay, so it's already gone in half once. So 40 is going to be worth 20 in another 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah, and right now we're talking about you don't have any money, but you've got these large items that are going down in value rapidly. I think you come out better to rent.
Okay.
Then lose another 20,000 in the next 2 years.
Okay, so back to the question: do I
sell the truck and use the money to sell the fifth wheel?
Okay.
And that puts you down a bunch of debt, right? Because you $45,000. How much is owed on the truck? Anything?
No, it's clear.
Whoa! What do you make a year? What's your household income?
Household's about $240.
Oh, okay, different world. All right, just changed things. All right, so you got 40, and the truck is paid for. How much other debt have you got?
All in all, including our house, we're probably right around $350.
Okay, not including the house.
Upper 100s, 180, 190.
Okay, so we got 40 on the fifth wheel. What's the rest of it?
Credit cards, student loans, and one vehicle.
And how much do you owe on the vehicle?
40.
Okay, all right. And what are you doing with the house if you move and lived in the fifth wheel? Selling it?
No. I would just stay Monday through Friday to work and come home on the weekends.
Okay. Do they not furnish you like a hotel or something to do that?
No. I mean, we cater to the oil field, and right now the oil field's been pretty slow the last few years, so they've kind of cut down all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, here's what I would do. The way you need to answer the question is this. What is the way that gets you to being completely debt-free the fastest with this fabulous income, and in the meantime, let you end up where you want to end up? Your cars are not unreasonable because of your huge income. Okay.
Yeah.
And even the fifth wheel is not as unreasonable as it was when we first started the conversation, because as a ratio to your income, you can afford to take these hits. But you've got to think, okay, 5 years from today, I want to be 100% debt free and investing like a crazy man. Do I own this truck and this fifth wheel at the end of that story? And you need to walk that through. I'm not sure. Just sitting here now for a second, it might be okay, because I mean, in your case, you could haul that fifth wheel down there, live in it for 2 years, and it may go down $20,000, but it's $10,000 a year. That's $800 a month in rent. And you would actually rather be in the fifth wheel, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's
honestly.
not cheaper, but it's not a lot more.
Yeah,
than rent. So